Welcome to the Tactics Talk for Leicester versus Sheffield Wednesday away. Sam, obviously, we've just come back from a win. Against Watford. Obviously, after the international break, done well. Again, don't know how fans think about the Watford game, but it was a win. We got 2-0, and now we're moving to a game which we probably say is one of the easiest of the season.
Well, first v last, isn't it? We should really be beating them. It's a good way to come back after international break and 2 losses in a row. Beat Watford, a little bit shaky first game back, but we got the 2 goals in the end. After doing substitutions, thought Enzo played it fairly well in Watford, but they were a fairly poor team, to be honest with you. So I think it was our time to get back on and win the game we needed to. And obviously the next few games, some are more difficult, some are fairly easy, and tomorrow night is, for me, should be a thumping. Yeah,
completely agree. It's one where, like we've said, we're coming into the Sheffield Wednesday game now with them only winning 1 game all season. They've lost 13. We've basically done the exact opposite, and they're near enough. We've won, 14 now, and we've only lost 3. This is where you've got to be looking at it. You don't even say you should be winning. This is has to win, surely.
There's nothing less than a win. If we do anything other than beat Sheffield Wednesday, it's a poor result. How many games have they? I think they've won 1 and drawn 2 or 3 in the whole season. There's a reason they're last. Their owner doesn't care about the club, not got the funds into it, and the players, he just doesn't care. It's one of those things, they're going to go straight back down to League One. So we should really beat them, and it's the kind of games really where you have to pick up all 3 points, and not just 3 points for me. We need to get a 4 or 5 goal, difference against them, because this is where we can really say, well, we might be on the same points as Ipswich at some point in time, like we were last week before we beat Watford. But if we can have a 5, 6, 7, 8 goal difference against the teams around us, that's definitely going to be a massive advantage. And a team like Sheffield Wednesday is where we do need to pick up the big goal difference.
Yeah, I completely agree. Again, guys, make sure to comment your views on team news and what you think the game should be like. But as we get into the teams, then, Sam, I've already put the main man in goal because there's no other choice in there, no matter. Defence, then. Obviously, we'll start with you, Sam. Is there any change in defence for you? Does someone like Cody come back into the fold?
I think you're going to see a handful of changes because we've just played Saturday and West Brom is a very tough team. What was the score against Ipswich? Ipswich lost, didn't they, to West Brom?
2-0, yeah.
So I think you're going to see a handful of changes and bring in some players. So I don't think we're going to see some of the key players out. I do think you're going to see Vestergaard in the middle as the main centre-back. He's done very well. Nothing wrong with him, he can clearly play well. He's obviously did his interview, didn't he, the other day, and he's come out and said certain bits. He's happy to be playing, and it's great to hear that a player who probably a lot of players would have not shown any respect to the club, and rightly so, but he has shown respect for Leicester, and he's putting the shirt on and he's doing very well at the moment. So props to him. He deserves to be in that team week in, week out, regardless of who's playing well, because he has probably been the best centre back, and he's not the quickest, but he knows how to defend. He knows how to be calm, and he plays the Enzo way, and he is probably the best one for the style.
The thing is with Vestergaard for me is, that I've been backing in the last couple of years, but the fact is, people say he might find his level, but I think it helps with the style of play as well, because you see the amount of times he gets in front of the man when the ball comes over the top, and he knows what he's doing in that defence. Don't get me wrong, he's slow. Don't get me wrong, he's probably not to the Premier League level anymore. But I think he's higher level than the Championship. In a way, I think he's in that middle ground where you'd say he's too good for this level, but he's probably not good enough for that.
Well. It's hard to judge because I can't personally, and you can't personally say how well he would have done in the Premier League. So I didn't see him play, and when he did play,
but if he was in this style in the Premier League, maybe he would fit a bit better.
It was this style in the Premier League, though. We did play the same style of football. The only difference is we have players that are willing to play the football. It was the manager that made the atmosphere toxic. So the style would have suited him maybe, but again, he got pretty much done over. People were saying that there was 2 Rodgerses at times at Leicester, but that's here nor there. That was last season. We got relegated. We move on. This season, he's come into it. He's played very well, and let's just hope he carries on. And I think again, he's one of the first names on the team sheet for Wednesday.
Yeah, I agree.
Wednesday.
I'll put him in as well, as you just saw. Go on the left and right centre back. Is there any changes for you?
Yeah, there is some changes for me. I'm going to take Fies out and put Cody in because I don't think we need.
You're going to put Cody in, yeah?
I'll put Cody in because I think Cody needs to get a bit more game time than what he is getting for me. We've paid a lot of money for him and he's a very good defender. So he should be playing a bit more. And there's, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But for me, against someone like Wednesday, this is where you can really switch up, especially when you've got a tough opponent on Saturday against West Brom. So for me, I'd bring Cody in and there's no harm in bringing him in if he doesn't have a great first half. You can change it around. We have 5 substitutions. We don't use all 5. So this is where you can really... Cody doesn't do well, we'll put Fies back in at half time. But for me, for someone like Cody, he should walk all over Wednesday, should stop their team left, right, and centre. Yeah,
I would say I agree with you, but I just, from what you said on Saturday, you said that FaZe had an incredible game. Was I mistaken that? But he did well. I think you were saying that he probably deserves it over.
I think I did.
Vestergaard for man of the match.
I think I did say Fies had a really good game against Watford. I think he's come back from international break strong, confident. He's played very well the past 2-3 games for Belgium.
Thing is, that's the situation now. We've got in our defence, as much as they've all got different styles, they all seem to be at the top of the level. Yes, it's down in the Championship now, but they're doing even you said last season that FaZe weren't great. And now he's come down. Yes, it might be easier for him.
They're not at the top of their level. They're not.
I think they're
playing against rubbish teams.
Well,
these players.
I get it.
We signed Fies for a top 8 challenge, not a relegation battle in the Premier League. He's not a Championship player. He doesn't want to be at Leicester. Let's be honest. He's got a good paycheck. If any other club in the Premier League offered him a contract, he'd go. I just don't think anyone's, he's had one season at Leicester and he got relegated. So who's going to offer him, 50, 60, 70 grand, which is what he's probably on still in the Championship. So too right, he should be playing very well, as should all these players.
No, I completely I do agree.
Jamie Vardy, 140 grand a week. He should be scoring 2 goals against Watford when he comes on as a sub. It's one of those things, and it's nothing as Championship. We should be walking this league. We had a blip the past 2 games, but the team we've got, there's no excuses for us to not win it, really. That's me being genuinely honest. If our team doesn't win this league, then there's something wrong. When you've got a £250 million team that's should be winning.
Well, yeah, like I say, even Leeds and Southampton are not doing that great. Obviously, Leeds are doing better than Southampton, but it shows you the level that if you keep enough of your Premier League standard players, or even that higher level that you had last season, it just shows.
Ipswich, they're just a well-drilled team.
They just come up from the league below, and they're literally nearly on level.
Not anything can happen in this league, but when you've got this money again. It's one of those things, really. If you didn't come up this season, the funds completely crumble because we don't. We're playing in the Championship on Premier League money. The club is going to take a massive financial loss this season.
And we won't have any of the players we've got right now.
Again, if we would stay in the Championship, all the ones that are out of contract go. I think a lot of them do anyway because some of them are just not really performing. But a lot of these players will go if we were to stay in. But that's why the goal is to get first, if not second at the very least.
Yeah, I completely agree. But we'll get into the left centre back now. Again, guys, make sure you comment your views on the team. Sam, your left centre back. Is there only one choice here? Because obviously Doyle is still out injured.
Doyle, yeah, I think he's coming back to training.
I think he's on the pitch now, but he's not ready to come in.
So, again, Justin, he's one of those players you can.
You love Justin, don't you?
I don't love him. To be honest
I'm joking. You're scared of him when he's on the pitch.
He's a great attacking-minded player, but when it comes to defending, he's still very young and needs to learn the right things to do. Again, against Watford, when they're on the counter-attack, I just saw some of the overlaps that he wasn't really watching. But again, that comes with experience. He's 1, still young, and 2, been out for a long time. But he's a solid defender and he's a better attacker, in my opinion. I think he's a lot better as a wing back. But again,
But that's where he plays half the time, though. When he gets into that defensive style, he will be playing like the Doyle style, where he does go up the side of the pitch.
Which is nothing wrong with it. Obviously, like I said, just on the counter attack, I don't think he's the best when Watford they're coming down his side of the pitch and he's got a player on the overlap. What does he do? Sometimes to me, he doesn't switch on enough in that position. But against Wednesday, realistically, they shouldn't have any counter attacks against us.
Yeah. Do you drop anyone in this midfield? Because we both know the 2 names that's probably going to be in there. But does Chowdhury come in after a decent performance against Watford?
Again, it all depends on I would say yes if we were to rest the player, but because Winks was out through suspension, he comes back into the team for me to get the match fitness and get the game back. that he probably would have missed out. And so if he played against Watford, then I would have probably put Chowdhury in. But for me, because he missed the Watford game, I put Winks in. And again, he Winks one of his players. He can play a game every 3-4 days. There's no problem with that.
Yeah.
So for me, Winks does come back in. I think you could tell we missed some of that creativity in the midfield against Watford. I feel like if we had Winks, some of those chances would have been tucked away nicer. Some of the final passes and some of the, getting the ball into their final third that Winks can create was kind of lacking from having two very defensively minded players as in the midfield role.
Yeah, again, I think there's no other option to put Winks in there for me again. See, this is the one where do you maybe rest Pereira? We've seen it at times where he has been put resting on the bench.
Again, Pereira, one of those players where this level is way too good for him. He should be fine for every single game he has to play. I wouldn't rest him. I wouldn't take it easy against them. It's Wednesday, so let's make 1,000 changes. For me, I would still stick Pereira in. Because again, he's a solid player. He is the club captain, I guess. When
he's the majority is club captain, yeah.
Depending on who's on the pitch, but if you give him the club captain, or you don't really drop a captain, like last season when whoever the club captain was, and Rodgers was dropping him, Schmeichel a little bit, wasn't it? It got dropped for Ward. Was it 2 seasons ago? I can't remember when.
Who was the captain last season? It was.
There wasn't really a captain last season.
I think he kept switching around to like Madison and
Evans.
Yeah.
But when Evans was in, again, it's just one of those things where
Vardy was captain.
If Pereira is your captain of the season, I guess I know that there isn't a set one, but for me, he's one of the more senior and leader roles. In this team. So again, wouldn't take it easy against Wednesday, and I would keep him in the team. He's a solid player, and he kept fairly fit this season.
I think after the performance against Watford, I think Chowdhury deserves a start, just because I thought he was probably one of the better players last game. So I do want to see Hamza in there and give Ricardo a break and bring him back in. Again, I think we both know that Ricardo Pereira will probably be in that slot, but because of the performance, I think that he deserves that role.
It's tough because it's Sheffield Wednesday, so again, we've got to think a little bit of Enzo in his mind. He's probably going to think West Brom, tough team. Sheffield Wednesday, bottom of the league, be top of the league. If the team that you've put out so far, if this team doesn't even, they've just beat them. I think any team we put out beats Wednesday. That's just how it has to be. So whoever we put out should really beat them. I am going for a little bit of a stronger team, but that's more because, it's just weird because Cody, £10 million player, barely played this season so far, but he's still definitely a very solid.
Again, it's another game where you'd probably say you bring him in. He should do the job, even if it is
he should do the job very easily.
So going into the attack then, Sam, there's maybe a few changes here or there because there's a lot more players back fit.
Yeah.
Atgun's back in, and DDU's back in, obviously, from the last game as well. And obviously McAteer's fully fit again. Is there any changes to the left or right side for you?
I've got a fairly, I wouldn't say it's too different, but for me, left wing, right wing, back to the good old left wing, right wing. Mavididi on the left, again, he's a very solid player. Looked very sharp against Watford, against just one or two chances, but he was very good at taking the plays on. And against Wednesday, the team they've conceded, 28 goals already? He should be running rings around their defence. So for me, Mavididi comes in, and on the right, McAteer wasn't amazing against Watford. So for me, I do start Fatawu. I think he should come back into the team, and because again, like I said, against Wednesday, they both should be running rings around their left back and right backs, and potentially get him a booking or even a sending off. They could definitely see some cheap tackles going into our players from their defence. So with those two players very skillful and very forward thinking, I do think we need to bring the game to them and not just sit back a little bit.
See, this is the one where I'm curious and I'm maybe thinking of something here, and I can't find his name at the moment, but I will very quickly add him before I say it. But like I say, Mavididi doing well. Obviously, he's not too consistent, but he does well when he needs to do. So I'm glad that Mavididi is doing well in the left hand side, but on the right hand side, does this man get a mention because he's not had too much game time? But Mark O'Brien, does he see the light of day tomorrow? Because this is one game where you think maybe he does fit in.
My honest opinion is no, he doesn't. He's a sub player now for us. When you've got McAteer, Fatawu, Atgun, I think O'Brien's more of not a last resort, but he's more of a senior role in the team now. He just play when the results. I don't think he's a game changer.
But I
don't
think
if we were to be losing 1-0, I don't think Albright
you bring him on now.
want to change the game around.
I just think because of resting players, again, McAteer has done well, but since he's been back, he's not been great. And like I say, you've got Fatawu, but again, I would save him as well. This is one on my side. I think we can save some players here because we don't need to risk too many players.
I can say, for my thing, we've just come back from international break. I don't think these players need saving as much as people might realise.
I think for me, it's not about saving them because they've just come out of an international break. It's more because it's only Sheffield Wednesday, which I don't want to put them down that much. But we did this at QPR. We said that we should be putting a weakened side out. We should drop Winks a lot of the time. Obviously, I think you said to play Winks, but you're at the risk of losing him for the Leeds game. This is where I feel like we can be a bit more cautious with who we play. And this is, I'm not going to put Albrighton, but I just wanted to put a mention and say that I think this is where he might have a start.
It's weird because we won't know what Enzo will play. He could play anything for all we know. So,
but I think my choice will be McAteer because I obviously I do think Fatawu is a better player on that side. So I think we rest him for the West Brom game, and we do play McAteer on that right hand side for this game. Again, I do think Fatawu is better overall, even though he's younger. But I think McAteer will do the job there, if I'm totally honest. But going into the midfield, then the attacking midfield, I think there's no point me even asking who the best one is, are we?
No, I mean, people are saying Dewsbury is on 4 yellow cards, which means one more and he gets this a match suspension.
Yeah.
But for me, I'd rather beat Wednesday comfortably and see what happens. If he gets a yellow card and he misses the West Brom game, then he gets a yellow card and misses the West Brom game. It just is what it is.
We did it for Winks as well, didn't we? We managed to get him out of like 3 or 4 games before we got yellow.
It's no guarantee. Dewsbury's not had a booking in a few games, I don't think. So he's been riding high a little bit on the waiting. Again, against Wednesday, Dewsbury shouldn't get a booking. Shouldn't have to do anything rash against the team that's poor. So for me, Dewsbury does get into the team because I think he's very vital. And if he gets a yellow card against Wednesday, you got to kind of be asking what's he doing to be getting a yellow card against a team that, 1, concedes front and 2, doesn't have to put the ball in the back of the net. So we really shouldn't be in a position where we need to worry about getting players on bookings, if you ask me. So Dewsbury, for me, he just gets into the team again, and we can't take any team like you said, QPR, Huddersfield, these teams that we thought we should really be beating. And when you play the first team, we struggled against them. Like you said, we managed to win, but we scored in the last 10 minutes. And I know people say that's the philosophy, but I'm sure we'd much rather score in the first 10 minutes than the last 10 minutes. And again, like I said, against Wednesday, it shouldn't be a 1 or 2-0 scraper. It should be a 4 or 5-0 thumping against a very poor team. Yeah,
I completely agree. And I've put my team actually instead of yours, but I will agree with you that Dewsbury does go in there. As much as I don't think he had the greatest against, in my opinion, against Watford, he has got the stats to back him, and there's no doubt about it. He is probably the best midfielder in the Championship at the moment. I think there is areas where he can still improve. Like I said, when we played that Madison role, then passes I always mentioned about the little flicks around the edge. Even if he did that sort of thing, create a bit more fluidity instead of it being him turning, spinning.
Well, they're 2 different types of players. Madison,
I get that, but I think that's where he wants to try and be like now, isn't he?
He wants to be in that role. Good at finding the space and knowing when to pass and when not to. I mean, that's the reason he's playing for a top 4 side in the Premier League now. I know it's Spurs, which we all hate to admit, but he is playing for a decent team in the Premier League, and rightly so.
But Dewsbury is trying to play in that role now, isn't he?
He's got a lot to learn, Dewsbury. I know he's probably the same age as Madison, roughly, but he does have a lot to learn. I think he's very good at turning and finding the space and doing the key passes. Again, for me, he's a very vital person in this season, and I wouldn't want to drop him for any game, regardless if he's on 1 book away from a match.
Like I say, I think for me, if it was Winks, then yes, I would maybe do it on certain games. If, like, for instance, the Leeds game was coming up, but we didn't, and he got through it all. Someone like Dewsbury Hall, I'd say that yes, he's massive if he does get booked, but like you said, it's Sheffield Wednesday. He should not be making any rash challenges. We should be winning that 3 or 4-0 without having to have a bit of a fire or go about it. But going into the right hand side, then there's still a few more choices. Ndidi's in there at gun. maybe even Cassidy. Any no?
Nope.
No chance. Okay, so who are you taking for that right hand side?
I'm going to put Outgun in.
Okay.
I think Ndidi was okay against Watford. He didn't look amazing, in my honest opinion. I thought he was a bit slow. The space that he had a lot of space against the poor Watford team, and it was he was struggling to do 10-yard passes at times. And I think when it came down to it, when that happened, you saw him give the ball away too many times. I thought he was a bit invisible, and when he did have the ball, he just gave it away too many times. So for me, Atgun, he's had a fairly decent start for us, and I would start him against Wednesday again. Match fitness, someone who probably wouldn't regularly start if you wanted to go on confidence and experience in the Leicester team. You would pick Wilfried Ndidi to be the person. But for me, Atgun, I think he deserves a start at the very least against Sheffield Wednesday. And like I said, they get 5 substitutions now where you can change these players around. So for me, I would play him.
Yeah, I was just looking at the stats for him and how many games he's played. He's played 10 games for Leicester in total this season, which he needs 25, isn't it right, for him to be automatically
it's not many, is it?
purchased?
Considering we're a month out from Christmas, there's still a hefty amount of the season to go, and we can play him for longer, but that just means after that 25 game threshold,
we have to buy him.
We're gonna have to pay.
Which in a way, from what I've seen, I think, I don't know, is he like that under sort of style, maybe with a bit more of a flair to him? For me, Atgun, we deserve to be in the squad. I think at times he's done better.
I think he's done okay in the Championship.
We've not seen enough of him yet, though, have we?
I've not seen enough of him for me to play that threshold of where we have to play him to sign him.
Yeah.
I could see us very easily playing him
Cracking
for 24 games. I don't know if the 25th game would be the one we have to sign him, but I could see us playing him for the 24 games, and that's that. But again, solid option, and Diddy has been fairly solid in that position.
Yeah.
Cassidy has not been very solid in that position, so if he doesn't get anywhere near the team, and he probably will, because Enzo seems to like him for some reason. When I saw him come on against Watford, it was a bit squeaky bum time. First touch he had, gave the ball straight away.
Who is this?
Cassidy.
Yeah. There's no doubt about him not being in my squad.
It should be Atgun, I think, and if not Atgun, it's definitely Ndidi.
Yeah, I think Ndidi would be the first choice. I think, again, because it's Sheffield Wednesday, I'm going to not play him against West Brom. So he's fully fit for that. So I'm going to agree with you as well. Atgun does come in. I think he does suit that role. Obviously, when we were at, was it Blackburn, when we won, I think it was 4-1 in the end. I think for me, he did well. And I think he suits that role better in that central role than he does on the wide position, because he isn't the fastest. He isn't the tallest. So he's not going to be able to beat many people on the wing. But in that middle spot, he is quite creative, like Juice Biol is. So hopefully he gets to start there and gets a bit more game time. But then the striker, then we've both been discussing who goes in this role. I personally think Cannon does have to start now. I'd say top versus bottom, he has to have his chance to get into the team.
I think we're both in agreement. Like I said, we had a little discussion before this, where if you're going to start Cannon, the best time to start him would be against a team that are not very good. And Wednesday,
he gets on his
the worst team in the league, so he should have a comfortable game. It depends on how we think it could go, because they could put in some harsh tackles and send him out for a long time again, which we wouldn't want. But for me, I would start Cannon, because I think if he's sat on the bench past 3-4 games, and for me, there's no point in him sitting on the bench if he's not going to come on, because he's never going to get match fitness just by sitting there. Yeah. So for me, he should come on. And Iheanacho, I think a lot of fans can agree, he had a very poor game against Watford. He did not play well at all. His head doesn't look like he's interested at Leicester City at all. For me, he's a player that's got 1 foot out the door and 2 eyes on another club at the moment. Whether that's someone else, who knows? I don't know where he could go. He's obviously going to go to AFCON in January, so he's probably not going to get signed by another team, because he's going to sign a player for him to just go out for a month, 6 weeks. But I do think his time is probably done at Leicester. He's never been an amazing player for us. He had one good end to season during COVID where he bagged 15 to 20 goals in his, in that season. And he was a good player that one season. But for the 6 years he's been here, he's not really done enough for me. So I think the Watford game has kind of solidified that I would much rather see Cannon, Vardy and Daka be the rotating three rather than Iheanacho in that bunch, because he's just not clinical, he's not vital, and he's just a lazy player at the moment.
Well, yeah, as well, with the AFCON coming up in the next couple of months, I think it is in January, isn't it? So the next couple of months, we will only have Vardy and Cannon to play, because obviously Daka and Iheanacho will be gone, and Didi will be gone as well, and Fatu as well. So for me, this is where, and also why I'm going to put Cannon in there, because he needs game time, because otherwise we're going to be playing Vardy every single game otherwise. So that's where Cannon needs to come in now and get a bit of game time, hopefully get a few goals early on before the AFCON comes in, because then he will be that rotation.
At the very least, for me, he needs to feature against Wednesday. If that's a sub, then that's a sub appearance. But for me, if I don't see Cannon appear...
But you were saying as well, Vardy is the impact sub now, and especially against Wednesday, who he supports.
I'm all getting onto the point of if he
doesn't get mentioned in it. Yeah,
on the bench for this will probably be his 4th or 5th game in a row. He's been sat on the bench, and for me, if he doesn't feature because of whatever reason, if they're saying he's still not fit, he shouldn't be on the bench. So, I'd much rather see Daka come on and try to do something, to play that's fit and not getting game time. Someone like Daka should be tearing teams apart in the Championship.
And that's where as well I'd say that maybe Daka would come in tomorrow. But the thing is we know Enzo, and we know that the probably will be Vardy or Iheanacho.
A bit like Suter, there's something not quite right. That's not because of their quality. There's something personal that's gone on between someone like Daka and Suter as to why they're not in the team. Whatever it is, we won't know. Maybe in 10, 15 years down the line, we might know a little bit more about what's gone on with some of these players. Yeah. But Tom Cannon, we signed him. He's been in the match squad for the past 4 games. I don't understand why you'd put him in there if he's been injured still. So for me, if he's fit enough to be on the bench, he's fit enough to start. And, we can't be scared of if he gets injured again because he needs the game time. Otherwise, he's going to slow down his fitness. He's going to slow down his ability to play football with having...
Well, the best time to gain fitness is by playing games, because you're in real life.
Who better to start against the worst team in the league?
Yeah.
So for me, that's a great opportunity for him to get some game time, even get a goal if he plays well enough.
Oh, hopefully, say a couple of goals there, and you might see him start more. And then obviously, when it comes to the AFCON, there's no doubt about it. You would start playing Cannon and Vardy on rotation. So it is what it is, guys. There you go. There's the 2 teams. I'll quickly show them again for you both. Obviously, there's a few changes here or there for me and Sam, mainly due to either being against the bottom of the league or just because of the quality we need to beat them either way. But that is going to be it, guys. Appreciate you coming on, and make sure to comment your views on the shows, and we'll catch you on the next show. See you in a bit.
Thanks for watching Leicester Fan TV. Thanks to our sponsors: Everards, Barlow Blinds, Pukka Pies, Car Leasing, Distillers Direct, Hollogram, Take Me, Newby Co, The Fox's Arms and Rainbows. Run by the fans, for the fans. Follow us on socials at Leicester Fan TV and visit LeicesterFanTV.com for all the latest news, views and videos.